It's July, so I'm back in the closet. Well, to be honest, my family's been here. My aunt's been in town for the past few weeks, and we had a windstorm Thursday that took down a whole bunch of trees across town and knocked out the power. I happen to have just recently relocated to the side of town that, like, my power came back up after like 3 hours, and I took a nap because that's what I do when the power goes out. I go to sleep, so I don't have to worry about the power being out. But I got power at like, it went out at like 2. I got power at like 5 something, and then I texted my mom and I went back to sleep, and she just showed up. She's like, "Hey," so that was Thursday. Their power just got restored last night, so they've been over here charging, staying cool, not necessarily cooking because we ate out, but leaf shade. Anyway, they were here and hide in reverse. Now the whole deck is in reverse. Ken, Divine Torch. Anyway, so they were here, and I was like, I can't find a space to go live. Not that anyway. And then I was like, oh, I can go into the closet. It was yesterday. I was like, Pride Month's over. Haha, wouldn't that be funny? And then the Fruma was like the one deck that I had out that I didn't have to go rummaging for. So I dropped it off in here, but then yesterday, like, I didn't end up going live. And now, like I said, the power's been restored. I have my space back, which is lovely. Not that I don't love my family, because I do, but I haven't even had time to fully enjoy this space. But anyway, it was nice to um, be able to like help them charge their devices and stuff and be a cool place. So anyway, so Leaf Shade, cradled, hide, unseeing in reverse. This feels like something is unfurling. Is that leaf? Is leaf to unfurl? I might have to crack this door because it's already getting warm. I'm not trying to asphyxiate in a closet. Even that, it feels like it's let in so much cool air. Leaf shade. There's a song, Life is a Magic Thing. It's from the movie Fern Gully, and it's coming to my mind right now. Um, it feels like nature is going to be revealing something, or life is going to be revealing something even more. Something, I almost want to say something that we're incapable of seeing because it's intentionally guarded. But we're going to be able to know with hot in reverse. And it was also you. No, it was mistletoe. It was mistletoe that Hyde used to kill Balder. And so it's like until that moment, Freya thought that she had went to everything and everyone and had obtained, express agreement that none of them would harm Balder. But after that moment, after something happens, then something deeper is revealed. So that could also be some like kind of towery energy because Balder dies and then Ragnarok happens years later after Fimbulvinter and other stuff. But I think also too it's making me think of the mouse in the Lenormand. It's like the tiny thing. Oh, there you go. There you go. It's like the tiny thing, the small thing that you wouldn't necessarily consider that you would think is harmless, so you wouldn't necessarily think to pay much attention to it. So it may not necessarily be a time to It's like it's not to be obsessed with the details, but not necessarily a time to let a lot of things sort of like fall through the cracks. Because that's also the thing with mice. Like one mouse or two mice isn't necessarily as much of a problem as like 5, 10, or 20. These cars are just falling out today. Is it because I'm on the floor that they're so close to the floor? Oh. Stankness! Ooh, with Feyor at the bottom of the deck. Okay. This is how Stankness fell out. Like literally right there on top of these two. Now this, it's almost feeling like some kind of test. Stankness is a testing rune. It's a rune of being tested. It's a rune of being tested in a way of like rising to an occasion, rising to meet something, rather than continuing to remain small or rather than shrinking away from it. And when we don't rise to meet it, when fear or anything that would cause us to hesitate or back down creeps in, that's when the jaws of the dragon snap down on your hand as you put your hand into that stone dragon's mouth in the statue, right? Anyway. And I feel like this has kind of come up before. So I don't know if this is gonna be, because it does make me think alchemy in a way. Or in that way of like how we transmute things, right? So it's something that's either it's gonna ask us um if we can see a deeper reason why something is happening. It's gonna ask us if we can utilize whatever information we find ourselves coming into possession of. It's gonna ask us if we can keep looking and moving forward. Wow, I feel like they don't usually talk like this. Another card hits the floor, face down. Oh, 77, Hamfarod, okay. Well, I love that Stankness came out this way because it's a lot closer in configuration to Hamfarod. Also, that is Elks in that specific um, rotation. It seems like I've never necessarily noticed it before, but it seems like this rune is being projected from this, whatever this is, between the F and the A. You see it? It almost makes me think of a triquetra, I think is what you call it. And then it's like, then this beam of light projects out from it. And on that beam of light is that Bifrost Bridge, is the Rainbow Bridge, is the prism that takes that beam, that single solitary beam, and it expands it out wide enough for one to not seek passage across, but it's like if the beam remained as a single white light, it wouldn't be wide enough to. It's like it'd be a tightrope rather than a bridge. And a tightrope is a bridge, I guess, if you're an acrobat or if you're a mouse, right? I don't know if there's also a question of who and how we want to be. because in my mind it's just like, Loki knew what mistletoe was for Baldur when nobody else did. Loki gave it to Hod. Hod was just kind of sort of like the one that was left out that wanted to also be a part. And then, of course, Baldur dies. But it's almost that, like, sometimes it's not what it is, it's how it's used, because even toxins in the right proportions can be medicinal. Like, I'm playing Monster Hunter. I played Monster Hunter with my brother for the first time in months, if not a year. Um, and there's someone who's like inflicted with a toxin, and then they go and find this legendary researcher who creates this uh, um, antidote. And he's like, well, whatever infected her, they've matured, so their venom is more venomous than it was in their adolescent stage or whatever. So we're going to need a more potent toxin from this one monster. And then they were like, oh, we just so happened to get a request to defeat that monster. It's a more powerful poison that creates a more powerful antidote. Is there an alchemy card in here? Fane at the bottom of the deck? We'll get one more. See, these cards are just like loving to talk. As soon as I start shuffling, it comes out. So this card came out across Hod, Stankness, and Hamfereld. And then there's one card that flipped over inside the deck. And it's This rune apparently is the rune of the moment, Horse Movement. I was at the card shop the other day, and that was the last rune that came out. And then I started watching The Ancient Magus's Bride, and they were talking about runes in that episode. And the last rune that was featured was this movement rune. And I was like, I sent a picture to him, and I was like, it's not my synchronicity. But here it is again, so maybe it is. The card that came out face down is Man. Myself, Humankind. Oops. 19 and 20 are the two cards. 19 flipped over inside of the deck. 20 came out. So between Hod and Reverse Stankness and Hamfereld, I would say that this is moving across that Bifrost Bridge because they both came out together. But the interesting thing about this is that it's only one color rather than all of them. So, like, it's not a rainbow bridge, it's a green bridge. I guess it could be green because of nature, because, Leaf Shade came out and it had a nature/natural world. But also, Stankness was, or for a second, it did come out as that. Will we continue to progress forward, or is there going to be a pause or hesitation? Because when the statue senses that hesitation, that's when the jaws close, and if your hand is still in the mouth, then you're going to get bit. And so because of that, there's almost this element where it's like depersonalized. Almost kind of sort of, but not really. It's depersonalized because it's like, it's almost like, well, your hand was still in the statue's mouth. Like, if it weren't in there, then you wouldn't have gotten bitten. So that's why it's almost depersonalized, but it's personalized because of like what was sensed within you that caused it to happen. And this could easily be about ownership because, hi, welcome to Real Code, where everything is about ownership, apparently. And it's like, man, it's what we bring to the table, it's what we do. Maybe it's how we impact, influence, and shape the world around us in ways that we're not entirely conscious of, or in ways that we don't necessarily want to be entirely conscious of. Um, and so then it's like, we cause some things to happen. We instigate some things, and then we're like, why is this happening? Or like, why is this happening to me? "2019 was the year before everything went crazy," right? 2019 was the last year that we had before the 2020. And maybe it's this question of how, not a question, maybe it's more of an observation of how man moves forward. Um, I feel like it's both how man moves forward and what moves man forward. Man being like mankind, humankind, people. And because it's green, it can be associated with the heart chakra. It's man moving forward in a more loving, caring, kind, and compassionate way. Would be really easy to sort of go that route. Hey Sandra, how you doing? Sorry. I'm using my phone, so the chats, like, if I don't catch them, they might disappear on me. So yeah, maybe it is just a question again of like how we decide to use whatever knowledge and information moving forward. But because I am me, I feel like there also has to be mention of consequence. But that came out last time. It was the angel of Scorpio that talked about a time for action. And then it was a card from the Whispers of Lord Ganesha that talked about creative forces and ingenuity and almost like not moving with any kind of like a purpose, almost to like do the ends justify the means, but it's not necessarily about one thing justifying another thing. It's like one thing leading towards another thing. And sometimes in our short-sightedness, or sometimes with our normal sightedness and everything that we know, which is not everything, we make the best choice and decision that we can at the moment, unaware of what's necessarily going to happen in response to that. With hot in reverse, though, it feels like if there is a consequence to action, like it's not going to be unforeseeable or it's not going to be super surprising, right? It's like if you shoot someone with an arrow, there is a chance that they could die. But that person is balder. Well, I guess we're all about to find out about mistletoe today. Let's get one more. One last card to close this out, please. Oh, now they don't want to talk. Every other time, as soon as I started shuffling. Oh, okay. Who'd that look like? Ak? Maybe. Yep, Ak support. Bottom of the deck is Perth. Perth Cosmic Surge after that Fey or Ether Fire. Mighty growth makes stability and strength, yet the oak follows a pathway laid out in the acorn's minute stored codes. Water your seed and sprout. Walk your roots deep within the soil to spread a fungal network throughout the world wild wood. Tannin rich bark purifies, invoke the magic folk living within this tree, seek their moral fiber and question your own. They may not support all you thought true. Questioning your moral fiber. There are two trees here. There's the pear tree and the oak tree. Um, and we're talking about leaf shade. We're talking about them revealing something, nature revealing something. It could be these trees that are revealing something in terms of like where we find support moving forward. Where, like, when we move forward, where we find support, whether it's like support from people, support from organizations, or support from the divine. Those pathways that when we move forward, they're easier. And what does that mean? What does that reveal, if anything? And then under the pear tree is the shadows card, and it literally just talked about walk your roots deep within the soil to spread a fungal network throughout the world. Wild wood. Well, deep beneath the soil is a pretty dark place. It's also nutrients because it speaks of the roots and how the roots nourish the tree. I guess Pluto just re entered Capricorn in its retrograde because it is an almost foundational energy, the roots, which is why I'm like, well, what's going on in Capricorn? We're about to have a full moon in Capricorn. I mean, we're still fairly early into Cancer season, so I'm like pretty sure it's not going to be a super tight conjunction with Pluto. But I guess Pluto is sitting in Capricorn, so that could be playing a part. Pluto sitting in Capricorn, sextiling Neptune that just went retrograde, late Pisces. So it's almost like, well, yeah, I would think so. There's like the sun and the moon that are doing this opposition, Cancer Capricorn. And then there's this like Neptune Pluto sextile over here. So it's almost like they're far enough, like they're in the same sign, but degrees wise, they're far enough where they may not necessarily like, they don't necessarily have to be this overwhelming force in a way. But it's like there's a very short distance in between them. And if either of those axes are powered, then it feels like the arc, like if it's electricity. And kind of has an electric feel to it a little bit. A little bit with all the wavy lines, even though, when we draw lightning bolts, they're usually more zigzag than wavy. Um, but if there's any energy on one, it can arc to the other one and like power it up. So it's not completely, out of the question. But then that makes me think of the magician card in the Astro Matrix Tarot that had the Tesla coil or whatever. I mean, it was Nikola Tesla behind him, and then there was the ball in the middle that was putting out all that electricity. And it was like it was the wand of the person that like started the whole thing. The wand of the person can be this mana, like mana, like the things that the resource that people use to cast magical spells or whatever. Mana, love that. Yeah, and then talking about the storms, it's like It's interesting which trees come up and which don't, because there were like huge trees that came up and like out of the ground. And you can see like they had a healthy root system, and there are more immature trees. There are baby trees like not too far away, which you would assume don't have as strong of a root system as the bigger trees. But there's something about how everything is placed in position that moves the air as the air comes through. Because air, while it can move an obstacle, it also moves around it. And that's Libra, apparently. I saw something on the internet like 2 years ago, maybe. That was like the Libra symbol is like aerodynamics, basically, about how the air current moves around an object, but then when it's far enough, like it goes straight through. So like the thing would be up here. And under here, it's unaffected, but here, like this will go up and around because air doesn't go through things besides the porous things that it can go through. So it isn't necessarily like a redirection. Um, and I wonder, like, if which tree of either of these would even fall, or would these be two trees that remain standing? Well, the leaf shade is here. Maybe that's the leaf shade in the hot in reverse. Something that was forcibly uprooted. And there was like a kind of tower energy because, Balder, Ragnarok, Fimbulvinter, everyone's Um, but I guess with mana, it's also like with mana and stankness, it's almost very like these are the times that try men's souls. But it's like those are the moments, those are the times where you find out the truth about a person in a way. Um, can we be driven to do and say things that we wouldn't ordinarily do? Sure. Maybe it speaks to strength of character, but strength in the way that it's able to withstand circumstance before it bows, bends, or breaks. Which also I feel like kind of came out recently. Oof. So ominous. But it doesn't necessarily have to be, because there are positive towers just as well as there are negative towers, and overwhelm can come in a variety of flavors. And maybe it speaks more of a regret that we would feel than anything necessarily external. Like if there's an opportunity that we recognize as the opportunity that it is, but for whatever reason we can't progress, we can't move forward, and we like don't accept that opportunity, and then it becomes like, oh, that could have been my big break, that could have been this, it could have been that. Doesn't necessarily have to take us there, but it just speaks to the potential that I guess it could, because we're human, we feel things. Bottom of the deck is gifts. The card that flipped over is Fail, Wealth Livestock, which is gorgeous. It's an apple bearer below gift. Okay. I kind of like apple bearer below gift because it feels like even if a tree is failed, then the seed is already planted for a new one to grow. And maybe that's the thing too, is like recognizing the apple for the gift that it is. Because in La Fruma, I feel like more specifically in La Fruma, Feo talks about like things that are fenced in, hemmed in, kept from necessarily being able to like be free. The box that we put things in, but it's like there's a gift inside the box. The gift inside the box of the fruit would be the seed, would be the genetic code that when it finds its its proper environment, it can grow and proliferate. And that's how trees sort of spread because they don't necessarily have legs where they can get up and walk. You know what I mean? It's like we look at fruit for their ability to provide us with nourishment and sustenance, which is a part of the process, right? The animals eat the fruit, they poop out the seeds grow into the ground with the fertilizer apparently of the animal that ate them. um, I never thought about that part until like literally this moment. Because like cow manure can be used as a fertilizer. I think some kind of manure can be used as a fertilizer. So I mean, if you have it set up in a way where it's something that people want to consume and then through their enjoyment of it and their whatever, it actually fertilizes that thing to keep moving it forward. It's like it checks multiple boxes at once. It does multiple things at once. And maybe that speaks to that HOD too. Again, because we don't necessarily, I feel like when we think of like fruits, we don't necessarily like we think of what they do for us more so than what they do for the plants that they come from. Unless like you are a person that propagates or unless you like farm, then maybe like again, it's not one of those like it's not something that nobody would ever think about because we know that. But it's like in our consumption of fruit, it's not necessarily the most important and pertinent to us. Maybe something will grow. Maybe you planted, like I said, they could be positive towers. Maybe you planted something a long time ago, or maybe there was something that you've done some time ago, or there's something that you've been in the process of doing that has been garnering attention in ways that you didn't even necessarily know. Or there was something, some kind of impact that you wanted to make in the world, and you didn't necessarily think that you were doing that. And maybe one day someone's gonna slide in your DMs or leave a comment that's like, hey, like you really helped me through this time or that time. And then you're gonna be like face to face, you're gonna have that realization of like, oh, so I have been doing the thing that I've wanted to be doing. I have been doing the thing that I've wanted to do this for some time, and I didn't necessarily know until this moment. And maybe that green bridge, like, because again, it feels very much so like a bridge, but it's not the entirety of the rainbow bridge, and it doesn't have to be. But it did feel like there were colors that were missing. So maybe the stankness test was whether or not we would continue down a certain path, knowing and believing that it was for us, but not necessarily seeing the result of it because it's something that we were incapable of seeing for the season or for the time, or it wasn't yet for us to see. But then comes that whatever the first card was that I already forgot. Leaf shade. Then comes the leaf shade that it's the hot goes in reverse and it's shown to us. We see the saplings and the seedlings, and we see the vines that grow from the seeds that we've planted or from the fruits that we've been putting out. We see how others have nurtured them in their own way to move them on or whatever, right? Because when the animals poop, they transport, transplant, and fertilize the seeds all at once. Um, and then it's like, okay, like that's the reason why I didn't stop. That's the reason why I didn't give up. If that doesn't resonate for you, then maybe something else will, or maybe this just doesn't resonate for you. Maybe this won't. I don't know. Maybe you'll see something and it'll be like, man, like I should have kept doing that thing that I knew was meant for me. And it's like, if you get discouraged because you don't see results, that's understandable. It's human. Um, Maybe it'll just be one of those like, when you have an idea, but you don't do anything with it. And then you see someone else who did something with that idea. And then you're like, I had that idea to do that. I should have done it because now look at how wildly successful it is or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's also going to be a time where the energy of a thing speaks because of the Feo, the gift and the apple bearer. Like the gift of the apple is in the seed for the apple tree. I guess the gift is in the nourishment with the shadow rune. Nide, the gift is in nourishment for the animal that eats it. They both stand to benefit from that interaction. Um, but I forgot what I literally just said. Um, it was like something else with the energy. It's the energy that something holds, and maybe that's what's going to come to the forefront because of what grows, because of what does or doesn't happen, because of the reaction of the jaws of the dragon statue. You know, maybe we think our intention is pure, but another motivation will be illuminated and highlighted in some way. And maybe we're in a time of moving into such subtlety that it's like you can't separate the energy from the thing, and maybe there was a time where it was easier to masquerade or whatever, but maybe not. Who knows? It's already been much longer than I thought this would be. My battery is not dead. So anyway, I hope you have an amazing whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. This was La Fruma in the closet because Pride Month is over, and apparently, yeah, it's fine. Anyway, I will hope you all have an amazing whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. And until next time, I hope that whatever you need along your path, journey, or way you find. And I hope you the courage and the strength and the wherewithal and the whatever um, to get you to keep moving when it's for you to keep moving. But I also hope you the ability to pivot if it is for you to pivot. Because sometimes it is for us to change direction or to change an approach or to branch off. Sometimes it's for us to continue moving forward. How do we know? Intuition, discernment, trusting your guidance, making choices and decisions. Maybe that's also the thing with mana. It's the choices and decisions we make and how they move things forward. It's doors that we open and close by acceptance or rejection or whatever. And it's how things work out in ways that we don't necessarily always anticipate. We can't always necessarily account for, like, I left this one thing thinking that this other thing would blow up, and it did. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Or it didn't. Oh my gosh, what did I do? Keep living life, I guess. I don't know. All right. See you next time. Bye. Maybe I clicked okay. Okay, all right, now we're gonna end this.